Good morning, Shadeda. This is Ramona. I think we're the only two so far.
Yes, Shadeda, thank you. I'm driving in, so I'm almost just passing Fort, and so let me know if you need any help. I'll go back from you.
Okay, thank you.
Shadeda, while I have you on the line, I'm going to request the budget modification that we made for Navajo Veterans Administration. The oversight is going to have a work session on Sunday regarding the budget, and I'd like to give them that information. Is that possible?
Yes, Shadeja. Peggy sent me that request after 5 yesterday, so I notified her that I'll work on that today after the meeting.
Awesome, thanks.
Welcome.
Hello? Is this the BNF call?
I believe it is. It's the teleconference. It's the teleconference call.
They're still waiting for.
Hey, Mona. Okay, it's Kristen. I just wanted to check in.
Okay. Thanks.
Good morning. This is Annarisa Begay calling in from Nations Gas Technologies.
Is it, Mona, is it just the legislation for the budget, or was there some other stuff that was added?
As far as I know, Kristen, the only legislation on the agenda is 22420. I don't have any idea about the other legislations, but I was notified that there is going to be some legislations added on. But as far as that, I have no idea. I think 20920 is one of them, and 21620 is the other. And that's the request coming from Kealan Begay.
Okay, thank you very, very much for letting me know. I'll go back on mute. Thank you.
Okay, you're welcome.
Hello?
Yes, hello, this is the Budget Finance, special meeting that's scheduled for 8:30.
Good morning, Ramona. This is Delegate Charles Newton. I am on the line. That was me saying good morning. Thank you.
Okay, you're welcome, Madam Chair. Good morning. The Honorable Amber Crotty is the only member that's online for now. Just FYI.
Thank you. Good morning, Shadeja.
Oh, yeah, Ishada. I'm just here on mute, waiting. Thank you.
Yeah, they have. This is Delegate Brown.
Yes, good morning. We've
Good
been on the
morning,
call 8:30.
Okay, and who else is here, please? Is it just?
Good morning, this
who-
is Delegate Charles Newton, I'm on the call. I'm not a
Okay,
committee member,
so
but
do
I
we-
am on the call.
Thank you. Are there two Budget and Finance Committee members only?
Good morning, Shauna Vendel from Risk Management, listening in.
Good morning, Sean.
Good morning.
Ramona, are you on call?
Yes, I am.
Okay, good morning. Guess we'll just wait for Chair and Vice Chair to call in and others.
Good morning.
Good morning. Good morning. Is this Chair Henio?
Oh, yeah, finally logged on. I've been trying since 8 to 25. I finally was able to log on.
We have two members besides yourself, Chair, for the Budget and Finance Committee.
Okay.
Delegate Crotty and Delegate Brown. They're on the call.
Okay, Shana. All right, thank you. Good morning. Thought you would say you already adjourned or something.
You must think that we are very efficient at getting it all done in, what, a few minutes? All right.
Yeah, I was trying to log on. I was getting frustrated. I had to even went outside to clean off the antenna to my internet to make sure I still had connectivity.
Vice Chair on board now. It was at Navajo Land Commission meeting. We just adjourned. So I'm here, present.
Kashina, Vice Chair Smith, good. Kashina, let's move forward with roll call. We have Shanada, Delegate Amber Crotty on the line, and Shanada, Delegate Nathaniel Brown on the line. So, Ramona, if you would do roll call for us.
Sure, Chairman Henio. Roll call for the Budget and Finance Committee of the Navajo Nation Council special meeting, Thursday, September 17, 2020. Jamie Henio, your location, please.
I'm present. I'm here in Rema, New Mexico.
Okay, thank you, Chairman. Raymond Smith Jr.
Present. Shanetta, Susquehanna, Arizona.
Okay, thank you, Shinoda. Jimmy Yellowhair? Jimmy Yellowhair? Elmer P. Begay? Elmer P. Begay? Amber Kenneth Crotty? Amber Kenneth Crotty? Nathaniel Brown?
The two. Nathaniel Brown here, from Danahoto Navajo Nation. Yeah.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Chair. Chairman, we have 3 members present at this time.
Okay, let's wait and see if we have one more call in, and then we'll move forward again. Thank you.
Shana, Honorable Hanyo, this is Delegate Charles Newton. I am on the line.
Good morning, Shateja. Good morning.
Oh, yeah, Shana. And I just want to remind you, Shana, that I did request to have legislation 0216-20 added to your agenda this morning. This is to extend the fund lapse exception for the Veterans Trust Fund. So I just want to put it on your radar. Maybe you can ask your colleagues to add that onto the agenda as we proceed forward with this meeting. Thank you, Shana.
Thank you for that reminder. And committee members, there is a request when we do get to the agenda portion of the approving the agenda, please consider that too also.
Yellowhair's on the line, Chair. Still. Good morning, Mr. Chair. Keelan's on the line as well.
Good morning, Chair. Thank you for being on the line here. I believe, Mr. Chair, Keelan, what was your legislation number?
Good morning, Shadow BNF members. Similar request to Charles Newton. Legislation 0209-20. That's the legislation I'm requesting the Budget and Finance Committee to add on for the consideration and support. I appreciate it, Chair. Thank you.
That's 209-20. With that, Delegate Jimmy Yellowhair, thank you for calling in. Ramona, would you do roll call again for us?
Sir, Chairman. Roll call for the Budget and Finance Committee of the Navajo Nation Council special meeting, Thursday, September 17, 2020. Jimmy Henry, in your location, please.
I'm present here in Raymond, New Mexico.
Okay, thank you, Chairman. Raymond Smith Jr.
Present, Tucson, Arizona.
Okay, thank you, Shinoda. Jimmy Yellowhair.
Here in Window Rock. I'm here in Window Rock. Yeah.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Yellowhair. Elmer P. Begay. Elmer P. Begay. Amber Kenneth Crotty.
Hi, good morning. This is Delegate Amber Kenneth Crotty. Thank you. I'm calling in from Window Rock, Navajo Nation. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Shadeja. Nathaniel Brown.
Delegate Brown from Danahoto Navajo Nation. Yeah.
Thank you, Chairman. We have 5 members present upon roll call.
Thank you for that roll call, Ramona. And with this, Jimmy Yellowhair to the
A question here last little. I think this is the reason that me. Here,他也是他让到的，看到的是，让到的看到诶，
The Budget and Finance Committee never known that place case ingi kaya hi September 17, 2020. Dan tsare itaw conference hota bani kado peshweda hoilne. Pro shitnt on stat never peso. Never in aliyagi peso na shape bani indistinct only was October 1st which a betat on shita. Bani in on the so I thought this is not by the Navajo Nation. Could you not all contact the engine on her? Nan's case in this engine of budget $8 that he need. I don't bet the court operates with the whole Nevani Hotel Conference. When in Nadi Court, Cosm Sazi, last day that the Geo A Hotel, even in the airplace with the in the Halayego a Bast here, not the evening at all 12 data. According haba hunzen stra asho de kodo la okan yege ntati ntot zistene also kodat he harjin totle kodan tsana de tapeoche bi hatika tenan hidden napa apedo yato kato yato nani katole shnatani kodo nashe tishno yashti ar kontora batato yet wal when he war Kaya Koja Nislipa Ara Eni Chinat with Ego Ye Corona of Scandale Ara Consonant Anibulianasta President Finance Committee Aslan is not even but one not all the Tobar Chindo, but so Kebnalke Arndas. She not only 24 council member colleagues, Il Tota is Gilto, the net orita is signed yet Elpni with one lot of it. No, kind of could I bed snow ashes to JB, Peter Yastio, could I Johanna has cleaned all the Kureha, Arosat, Arona Kose, Yas, Nilan Hilnas in general. Yet, if the Nani Catholic, also it doesn't be nice to condole here, Nashka. Amen. Thank you, Chair.
Kashina again. Kashina Shana Dashna. Do you Jimmy or Juna Hatsudin Zanib Nache? Eya Kado A Pino any Nashna Dilika. Other Korea recognizing guests and visiting officials. Should say. Dana Kigo Eyan Hana Isa Lashe Ya Kitagi Kian Begay. I should say Chairwoman. Virginia Charles Newton. Yeah, I could have. Other Tasha that is Beshmas Anna. Our legislative attorney, principal attorney, Kristen Lowe, are you on the line with us?
Good morning, Chair. This is Kristen Lowe. I am on the line.
Good morning, Kristen. Do we have Office of Management and Budget on the line?
Good morning. Dominic Bial is here.
Good morning, Dominic, and your staff. Good morning. Do we have the Office of the Controller on the line? The Controller's Office? Do we have the Controller's Office on the line?
Good morning. This is Karen with General Accounting, Office of the Controller.
Good morning, Karen. Do we have the Department of Justice on the line? Department of Justice? Okay, and then moving forward, let's look at our agenda, review and adopt the agenda. Peggy, if you would, also recognizing our two staff members that's always here helping us with our meetings, Ramona Nelson and Peggy Nakai. Good morning. So with that, Peggy, would you review that agenda for us?
Good morning, Budget and Finance Committee. This is your proposed agenda for September 17, 2020. It's a special meeting. It's via teleconference. Presiding is Jamie Henry, Chairperson, Raymond Smith Jr., Vice Chairperson, placed via teleconference, Window Rock, Navajo Nation. 1, call the meeting to order, the roll call, the invocation. 2, recognize guests and visiting officials. 3, review and adopt the agenda. 4, review and adopt the journal. None. 5, receive reports. None. 6, old business. None. 7, new business. A, legislation number 0224-20, an action relating to Budget and Finance Committee, Navigatia and Navajo Nation Council, approving the Navajo Nation fiscal year 2021 comprehensive budget, waiving 12 NNC section 820I and 860, 12 NNC section 2001 at SEC, and 12 NNC section 840B, sponsored by Amber K. Crowdy, Council Delegate, Jamie Henio, Council Delegate. 8, close of the session, written announcements, adjournment. The next regular meeting is October 6, 2020. That concludes the reading of the agenda, Mr. Chair.
Thank you for that. Committee members, is there a motion to adopt the agenda?
I'll vote Yellowhair for the motion. She has.
Commissioner Brown, I'll second.
Commissioner Delegate Jimmy Yellowhair, motions to adopt the agenda, second by Delegate Jimmy Yellowhair. Okay, with that, committee members, any questions or comments regarding the agenda?
Virtual hearing tomorrow, so I've got to go to that. So, thank you. You're welcome.
I don't know if there's any questions before you.
I don't know if somebody can put their phone on mute. We could hear some conversation in the background. The committee members, any questions or comments on the agenda? We do have two Shinada online. Shinada Delegate Kiel Begay, who is requesting that the committee consider legislation 209-20. Shinada, our chairwoman for Law and Order Committee, Delegate Eugenia Charles Newton, requesting that the committee also consider 216-20 today, because they do need to move forward to Navigatia also. So with that, committee members, is there any questions or comments on the agenda, or otherwise I'll call for the vote?
Chairman Kiela.
Chair Henry.
Vice Chair Smith.
Motion to put those two agendas on board, or not agendas, legislation. Shaky Allen, and also the legislation. That's my motion.
Okay. Motion by Shinada, Vice Chair Smith, to consider legislation 209-20 and 216-20 onto the today's agenda. Is there a second, committee members?
This is Delegate Brown.
Okay, Shinada, Delegate Brown, seconds that motion for number 1 to add to item business.
Number 1. Yeah.
Okay, with that, committee members, any questions or comments?
This is Delegate Crotty with a question.
Okay, Shinada, Delegate Amber Crotty.
Thank you, Chair, committee members. Thank you, Shiaj, for your prayers and setting the tone. I just need to know, in terms of the timeline that this committee meeting was proposed or scheduled. I understand and I respect every delegate's authority to ask questions and get answers on questions. I just thought this meeting was for the budget, but if you can enlighten me as amending party, and I just then need to clarify in terms of the order that we would be hearing the legislation.
Okay, with that, Vice Chair Smith. Do you have a question regarding your amendment? And also the other part is the order of the legislation that will be heard. What's your order preference? Vice Chair Smith.
Thank you, Shananda, Chair Doe, Honorable Crotty. Yes, we are in special session for the budget. There was a request at Donna to add these two on regarding their legislation. And that's why I made a motion to put them on. Let's go by the numbers on the legislation. I don't have the legislation numbers, but whoever's in possession of the numbers, like let's say 201 and then 202 go next. But I don't have those numbers in front of me. Shananda, thank you.
Commissioner Vice Chair Smith, if you were to do the numerical order, then 209 would be heard first, which is sponsored by Delegate Key Allen Begay. Though from there on, it'd be 216, which is legislation sponsored by our chairwoman for Law and Order, Eugenia Charles Newton. And then 224 will be heard at the end, which is the 2021 budget. That's the order if you wish to do that, Vice Chair Smith.
Chair Henio, I met after our legislation 224-20, then go in for session in that order.
Okay, I hear you now. So in your amendment A, new business A would be 224-20, and then B would be 209-20, and C would be 216-20.
I'll put that vote, Chair.
Kushina, with that, Delegate Nathaniel Brown, you're holding the second.
Yes, thank you.
Christina, with that, Delegate Amber Crotty, does that answer your question?
Thank you, Chair. I appreciate the clarification. And the second part of my question was in terms of time. The committee is scheduled for this meeting. Is there a meeting or a budget hearing that's scheduled? I don't want to be rushed. And I do hear delegates saying, why are other meetings happening? And so I think that's what I'm taking into consideration with these legislations is I'm pulling them up. We're having a little bit of technical issues here on Window Rock, Chair. So for these legislations, do they need to be heard today to move on? Or can we just like focus on the budget? That's what I just need to know, Chair. I'm fine. If we're able to be here and ask and get the information that we need, I could see where we start adding things on. But if we're constricted, then I just need to know what's the plan. Thank you, Chair.
Okay, thank you for that, Shananda. Again, Ricardo, yes, we do. I think that we have an obligation starting at 10 o'clock, and we're already past 9 o'clock already. And so back to
Chair.
the request for addition again, Shananda, Delegate Key Allen Begay, Chair. On your legislation, does that, before I do that, hold on. Let me go back to Peggy. Committee reports. Peggy, do you have committee reports for both legislations?
I was just looking at that, Chair. There is, for 216-20, there is a memo from the Speaker saying that Law and Order had to review 216 prior to Budget and Finance. That's the order of the assignment. And that's a question to the Law and Order Committee Chair to see if they did have a meeting and if the committee reports are ready. Because the copy that I have that the legislation section sent me does not have a committee report with the 216. And it says in the Speaker's memo that it's assigned to Law and Order Committee first, and then it goes to Budget and Finance.
Okay, thank you for that. And 209, Ishan.
Let me take a look at that real quick. Hold on.
Okay, yes, because I understand it was before Health, Education, Human Services yesterday. So while you're looking that up, Shananta, Chairwoman of the Law and Order Committee, has this 216 been before Law and Order Committee prior to Budget and Finance?
Shana, Otto, thank you, Peggy, for the report. And yes, it was heard yesterday at a special Law and Order Committee meeting. It was voted on and it was passed by the Law and Order Committee. The reason we had to change the order was because this particular legislation, 216-20, it's going to expire on September 30th. And this is dealing with the veterans homes, and they need an extension for, we're requesting an additional 4 years. But the purpose of trying to get it through is because we have council next week. And if we can get it approved next week, then we'll be good. If not, then again, this legislation expires September 30th, 2020. So that's the push to try to get it through, which is why Law and Order Committee had a special meeting yesterday to hear this legislation so that it could get onto Nabik Iatskit today and then get onto council next week for consideration. Thank you. Oh, and as far as the committee report, Honorable Otto So was chairing the legislation. He said, I'm in Window Rock right now. I'm going to sign it, and it'll be sent here shortly.
Okay. So if we do have committee reports for both legislations, then we're committee members, we are good to go. If not, then we need to consider that too. Also, we can't hear legislation without a committee report.
Chair, this is Peggy.
Peggy?
May I?
Go ahead, Peggy.
On the legislation 216, the Law and Order Committee hasn't submitted their committee report or the vote tally sheet. So the legislation section is waiting for those documents. And then on the 209, we do have the Health, Education, and Human Services Committee report. So I believe, is that the, let me look here. I think they're assigned, yes. So the 209 is in order, but 216, we don't have the committee report yet. And I assume that the staff will probably be bringing that in during the meeting.
Okay, thank you for that, Peggy. With that, back to Vice Chair Smith. You're holding the motion on this amendment.
Chair Henia,
216 does not have committee reports right now, as Peggy checked. 209 does have a committee report to be heard at Budget and Finance. The 209 has a committee report from Health, Education, Human Services. It was heard yesterday. 216A was heard yesterday by Law and Order, but there's no committee report. So you're holding the motion for the amendment to add these two. What's your thoughts here, since you're holding the motion, Vice Chair Smith?
216A until we get the committee reports. Because 298 happy. What's
that? Shananda, Delegate Nathaniel Brown. You're holding the second. Spiegel.
Okay, Spiegel. Yeah.
Okay, that there's a modified on the amendment to only add 209-20 onto the agenda. And with that, also time-wise, AD Nade Kidneshna Delegate Smith, because we do have a limited amount of time to start moving. And are you still wishing to consider your amendment of adding 209? Keeping in mind the timeline that we only have less than an hour to hear this budget legislation.
I'll keep that in mind. Thank you, Chair. Yeah.
So you stay with your motion then.
With that.
Okay. That committee members, any other questions or comments? Vice Chair Smith was standing on his motion to add 209-20. Delegate Jimmy Yellow here.
I'll vote green. Thank you, Chair.
Vice Chair Smith.
Green.
Delegate Amber Crotty.
Delegate Amber Keenan-Carty votes green. Thank you, Chair.
Delegate Nathaniel Brown.
Delegate Brown votes green. Yeah.
Delegate Elmer P. Begay. Delegate Elmer P. Begay. And we do have 4 in favor, 0 opposed. Chair not voting to add amendment number 1, which is 209-20 to new business as item B. Back to the main motion. Committee members, any questions or comments? Let's call for the question. Amendment number 1, approving the agenda with one amendment, adding the legislation 209-20 as new business B. Delegate Jimmy Yellow here.
Delegate Yellow here votes green. Thank you.
Vice Chair Smith.
Green.
Okay. Delegate Amber Crotty.
Delegate Amber Keenan-Carty votes green. Thank you, Chair.
Delegate Nathaniel Brown.
Delegate Brown votes green.
Delegate Elmer P. Begay. We do have 4 in favor, 0 opposed, approving the agenda as read with one amendment. With that, let's move forward. Review, adopt the journal. There's none. Receiving reports. There's none. Old business, none. New business. We do have 2 items on new business. A, legislation 224-20. Peggy, if you would read this into the record for us.
This is a proposed Navajo Council resolution assigned to Budget and Finance Committee, then Nabakia Committee, then the Navajo Nation Council. 24th Navajo Nation Council, second year, introduced by Jamie Henio, Amber Keenan-Carty, primary sponsor, tracking number 0224-20, and action relating to Budget and Finance Committee, Nabakia Committee, and Navajo Nation Council approving the Navajo Nation fiscal year 2021 comprehensive budget waiving 12 NNC section 820I and 860, 12 NNC section 2001 at SEC, and 12 NNC section 840B. This has been electronically read into the record. It has the exhibits that are attached, and there were no internet public reviewed comments. Mr. Chair.
Yeah, thank you for that. Committee members, is there a motion? Before I entertain a motion, I am the primary sponsor of this legislation, so I'll hand the gavel over to Vice Chair Smith.
Okay, Chair, I was thinking that you were going to hand the gavel over to, not the gavel, but keep the gavel, then hand it over to your co-sponsor, but I'll take over. Committee members, since it's been read into the record and Chair Henio is the sponsor, do I have a motion?
Yellowhair, go ahead. I'll vote.
For the record, I have a motion by Honorable Yellowhair, second.
Delegate Crotty will second.
Honorable Karate will second the legislation. Honorable Chair Henyo, you have the floor.
Vice Chair Smith, the Budget and Finance Committee members. We have legislation 224-20 related to the fiscal year 2021 comprehensive budget. And then there's also in there waiving 12 NCC subsections 820 I 860, and then also 12 Navajo Nation Council on NCC the subsection 2001, and then 12 NCC 840B. This legislation as Budget and Finance Committee members. We spent almost 2 weeks on it, going over the each program budget and reviewing their totals and then all the numbers. There were some amendments that were made to two programs, and therefore and with $167 million in general funds that we had to work with, we did a thorough review of all the budgets related to general funds. That we do also have other special funds that come in with different programs, like Department of Transportation they have federal funds that they work with, Navajo Nation, that Department of Public Safety, and then also our programs like Head Start, Education, Social Services, and so forth. And I cannot call the total budget for the Navajo Nation that we are looking at $1,244,353,093 for the 2021 operating budget. And that's under legislation under paragraph B, which is on page 2 of under line 9. That's the total budget that the Navajo Nation works with. So all the monies that, including general fund that we work with. So and there's a breakdown in paragraph B, starting from line 9, and for your explanation of where we do get all the money from. If you go back up on the same page, item A, also approves the 12% set-asides from different revenue accounts that we have, that money that's coming in again, and the amount of $19,011,000 to the Navajo Nation Permanent Fund. 4% fiscal year 2021 revenue amount of $6,337,000 to the Veterans Trust Fund. 2% of the fiscal year 2021 revenue, an amount of $3,168,000 to the Navajo Nation Land Acquisition Fund. The $2 million of the 2021 revenue to the Capital Outlay Matching Special Revenue Fund. The $2 million of the 2021 revenue to the Water Rights Claim Fund, and then $12,400,000 of the 2021 review to the Dene Higher Education Grant Fund. Those are the investments that we have, and even every year when we do have money coming in from to the nation, there is, by law, we have to set aside that money to go into the principal. So under paragraph A, there is a breakdown of what money that we are contributing into these special trust funds that we do have. If you look forward down, further down under B1, there was a general 3-branch chiefs agreement, and based on that, uneven between President Jonathan Nez, Speaker Damon Ado, Chief Justice Joanne J. The legislative branch under page 2, line 17, number 1. The legislative branch will get $16,410,204 as their 2021 operating budget, and there is an explanation in this paragraph of where that money is coming from. Line 24, numeral 2, Pakagi Judicial Branch, $19,923,325. That's their allocation, and again, it includes $16,624,653 of the general funds, and then from there, there's a breakdown of external funds that they also receive. Then if you go to the next page, page 3, line 1, numeral 3, Bakagi Executive Branch, they have the biggest budget of all 3 branches, and that's customary. And their executive branch budget is $1,181,834,512. From there, it includes $119,367,464 of general funds, and again, that is the all the programs that provide direct services to the Navajo Nation, and including the chapters. The chapters is, I believe that's part of the chapters too. Well, chapter 8, the chapter is different. So with that, if you read that paragraph under Exhibit D, it gives you a breakdown of all their funding sources. Though, of course, we do have fixed costs that we also have to consider, which is $23,185,052. Out of that, $15,815,144 is general funds, and then $7,369,908 is indirect costs. And then you have capital improvement funds, which is $3 million. The non-chapter administrative costs. This is the chapter that each year the chapter governments, which are based on Ihigi, and non-administrative meaning does not include the stipends or permanent personnel costs or travel expenses of chapter officials or staff. This is direct services to the Navajo Nation citizens. $11,998,969. 7 external funds cash match, $3.8 million. So, and if you go through the legislation, there's an explanation of all the funding sources. And as we all know, through the Budget and Finance Committee, we also consider the K accounts, the external funds. And so so we had questions, and we had program directors come before the committee and explain their special external funds accounts to the committee, and we did get an explanation of that. The other thing that we still need to add, committee members, is language amendments that we need to make regarding the carryovers. As we discussed on Tuesday, there was a consensus by the committee to wait until November when all the tallies are taken from each of the programs to see what their actual carryover amounts will be. And then from there, the committee, Budget and Finance Committee, will again deliberate on each of the programs' carryover amounts, and that will be moved as an amendment forward, is what the committee had decided to do. The other thing that we also considered, committee members, is the unmet needs and the personnel lapse fund. And I believe Mr. Bial with OMB has an exhibit that will be ready for the committee to add as an amendment to this legislation. Is the allocations from the Budget and Finance Committee to support the unmet needs of these. Unmet needs of the programs. So, we all decided that there should be given some allocation. So, we do also need to add that as an amendment to this legislation. Committee members, once it's available from budget, OMB, Office of Management and Budget. And I believe that's everything that I covered so far. There's our memos attached to the exhibits attached to this legislation. And 18, we all had a chance to look at this. And so with this, committee members, that is the extent of my presentation. And I'll stand for questions. Committee members, and I believe we do have Office of Management and Budget on the line with us. And I am hoping that the Office of the Controller will also be joining us, or maybe they're already on the line with us to consider, to assist me with any questions that will come up from the committee. And I will also have our Principal Attorney, Ms. Krista Lowe, on the line to assist us with any legal questions or any amendments that the committee wishes to make. And I'm hoping that Department of Justice also comes on the line. So with that, committee members, there's an email that just came in from our Principal Attorney, proposed amendment with cost. So if we could consider that to committee members. With that, Shinada, Vice Chair Smith, I yield the floor back to you.
Thank you, Chair Henyo, on the legislation and the presentation. Committee members, any questions?
Vice Chair Smith, this is Delegate Crotty with a question.
Honorable Crotty, you have the floor. I'll recognize you.
Thank you, Vice Chair Smith. Thank you, Chairman Henyo, for sponsoring the legislation and the overview. I did just receive the proposed amendment language, Vice Chair Smith, and so I would like to ask our legislative council if they can provide us as a committee the intent of this amendment, and I'd like to know that for the record. Thank you, Vice Chair Smith.
Thank you, Honorable Crotty. I'll turn the floor over to Legislative Council regarding the question from Honorable Crotty.
Vice Chair Smith, members of the committee, this is Kristen Lowell, and I also wanted to let you know that the email that I sent out was just now for the amendments to the budget legislation was a revision from what I sent out last night, just around 6 o'clock, 6 o'clock last night. So I will go through the entire legislation that are the amendments for the legislation. So the first thing, which is item number 1 on the amendment document, says to replace exhibits A through D with new exhibits A through D as provided by OMB. Yesterday evening, OMB sent revised exhibits. This was sent at 5:28 last night, and it was revising exhibits A through D. And the reason that that was done was because the Budget and Finance Committee decided to use the personnel lapse funding and put that into what will be Exhibit H. So OMB also submitted a document that is titled the Navajo Nation Fiscal Year 2021 Personnel Lapse Fund Allocations. That will be inserted as Exhibit H. So accordingly, Exhibits A through D were modified to reflect that inclusion. Also, of your legislation, page 1, line 14 of the title of the legislation has waiver language. So with the selection by the committee members to use the 2021 personnel lapse funds, that also requires an additional waiver of Council Resolution CF 0711. So that is also reflected in this amendment document that was emailed to the committee. Let's see what else. I had to draft a paragraph. It's on page, going to go into page 5 of the resolution, and it will read as follows. Insert new language. Paragraph M, the Navajo Nation Council hereby waives Council Resolution CF 0711, resolved clause, paragraph 3, in order to allow for the Navajo Nation fiscal year 2021 personnel fund lapse allocations as indicated in Exhibit H. The Navajo Nation Council further waives the requirement in CF 0711 that excess or surplus funds from unexpended personnel funds be deposited into the unreserved, undesignated fund balance. So the council resolution itself calls for the personnel lapse fund account, as we call it, to be used to fund general wage adjustments or step increases, and that the excess money goes into the UUFB. So with the inclusion of Exhibit H into the comprehensive budget resolution, that entails a waiver, and that is what you see in the proposed paragraph M. I also made a change to Section 4 of the resolution because that did not, didn't entirely capture the essence of the request of the directive. So Section 4 is to be deleted. The current language is to be completely stricken, and it will read as follows. The Division of Community Development is directed to develop the Navajo Nation Capital Improvement Plan in accordance with the plans submitted by each chapter. This plan is to be developed by the end of the first quarter of fiscal year 2021. And then finally, the last proposed amendment to this resolution is to include a directive to the Office of the Controller. And this reflects the committee's discussion. Rather than having carryover, open-ended carryovers be included in the budget resolution, the Office of the Controller is directed to provide a report of unexpended funds for fiscal year 2020 by program and business unit by December 1st, 2020. This report shall be presented to the Navajo Nation Council for its consideration to make a supplemental appropriation to programs with unexpended fund amounts from fiscal year 2020. Any supplemental appropriation of unexpended fund amounts from fiscal year 2020 will be done as an alternative to approving program or division carryovers as part of the fiscal year 2021 comprehensive budget. So this paragraph reflects the committee's decision to wait until there is a report that lists by program, by business unit, exactly how much each program has in unexpended funds. So this is in lieu of putting carryover amounts in the budget. Vice Chair, members of the committee.
Committee members, any other questions?
Vice Chair, if I may, this is Peggy.
Peggy, go ahead.
This is a question to Kristen on number 5, where it says page 5, line 23, and it starts with M. And you didn't indicate whether that would delete the current language that's there at M. I didn't hear that anyway. Can you clarify that, please?
Vice Chair, if I may.
Thank you.
Yes, Legislative Council, go ahead. You have the floor.
On the amendment sheet that was emailed out, it reads insert new language as follows. So it's insert new paragraph M. And that can be, if it's more clear as to the intent, it is to insert a new paragraph M. So there on the amendment sheet, it does not delete the current paragraph M. That current paragraph M needs to stay in the resolution. So it's not replacing, it's inserting new language. So I hope that's clear, but certainly the amendment document that I emailed out can be modified to reflect that it is inserting a new paragraph, Vice Chair.
Vice Chair, if I may, please. This is Peggy.
Committee members, Peggy, go ahead. I'll recognize you.
Okay, thank you. The existing paragraph on line 23 starts with the Navajo Nation waives the provision in 12 NNC section 840B. So that remains. So then we would start the new language at line 25 at the end of the sentence, insert this new language. Is that how we would do this? Kristen?
Vice Chair, members of the committee, Ms. Nakai, no. So this is a new paragraph M, and so paragraph M starts at line 23. So the intention is that this will go into line 23. That's how I drafted it. Ultimately, it doesn't really matter as long as it gets in. But I drafted it to be after paragraph L and to be a new paragraph M. So in the amendment document, it's underlined, which indicates new language, and then there's nothing that's deleted. So that indicates that the existing paragraph M stays in the document, Vice Chair.
Thank you. I appreciate that. I'm kind of slow this morning. I apologize.
Committee members, any other questions regarding this legislation number 224-20?
Chairman or Vice Chair Smith, this is Delegate Crotty.
Honorable Crotty?
Thank you, Vice Chair. I'd like to make the amendment. If I can motion for the amendment that our legislative council reviewed for us. Thank you, Chair.
I'll recognize the motion to the amendment. There'll be Amendment 1. Do I have a second?
This is Delegate Brown. I'll second.
Honorable Brown seconds the motion to the amendment number 1. Committee members, any questions on Amendment 1?
Vice Chair Smith, this is Delegate Crotty.
Honorable Crotty, you have the floor.
Thank you. I have a question on my own amendment, so I'll have to defer to OMB. I just need some type of guarantee from OMB that these numbers are correct. Was it 2 days ago we had a critical communication breakdown with the Navajo Nation Veterans Administration Office, which resulted in unnecessary risk notices going out. So I need to make sure these numbers are correct. And my second question is on the proposed new Exhibit A. On the note, it says number 2, personal savings fund does not include the 3.8 general wage adjustment. So I'd like to know from OMB, where do they place those dollars in this budget form? My goal is to have complete transparency and understand where every dollar is, where that's demonstrated in Exhibit A. Thank you, Chair. Vice Chair.
Honorable Crotty, we'll go ahead and turn the floor over to OMB for your question. OMB, are you there?
Yes, sir.
Dominic, you have the floor.
Okay. Responding to Delegate Crotty's question about the validity of the figures, all I can say is, to our best knowledge, understanding, all of the numbers are correct as far as the actions of the BNF committee, the branch chiefs, divisions, oversight committees up to this point. Now, on the question about the personnel savings GWA amount of $3,846,992, it's referenced in two places. In the body of the resolution of the legislation, paragraph C1, that would be on page 4. The whole paragraph speaks about the personnel lapse amount. And number 1 there has the GWA 3% appended as Exhibit G, and it has the amount $3,846,992. Now, the second place it's referenced is in the revised Exhibit A. Just to further explain, since I have the floor at the moment, the reason there's new exhibits, A, B, C, D especially, is because as of the work session Tuesday and then going into yesterday morning, the Budget and Finance Committee made its recommendations for the use of the Personnel Lapse Savings Fund. So in the original legislation, it was not included because at that point there was no determination whether to use the funds, and then secondly, where. But that was done. So in the new Exhibit A, there's a new column G that has the Personnel Savings Fund now listed to the 3 branches in the total amount of $9,236,549. Now there's a small note, number 2. The Personnel Savings Fund does not include $3,846,992 for the general wage adjustments. The reason it's done this way, and this is the way we've been doing it now for a number of years, is the final actual cost for the GWA of 3% won't be implemented until the new fiscal year starts in roughly October or November. And the amounts are typically going to vary because it depends on actual number of staff on board at October 1st, and then calculating 3% of their salary. So those adjustments are made administratively. Now, typically, even though the amount is at $9.2 million, that's probably a bit on the high side. That's because it's calculated and projected at 100%. Now, we're all aware that the actual personnel, staffing, positions that are budgeted, etc., vary. So that's why it's shown and reflected in that manner. Mr. Vice Chair, I hope I answered Delegate Crotty's question.
Thank you, Dominic. Good morning, B. Honorable Crotty, back to you. Does that answer your question?
Thank you, Vice Chair. I appreciate the response from Mr. Bial at OMB and the disclaimer regarding the numbers. And I do want to recognize that we are in the midst of a pandemic, that we are trying to all do our best with this budget, and that there is limitations in terms of technology or in terms of how, or really no plan on how we were going to try to pass this budget using telecommunication and digitized copies. So I think, so I want to recognize that comment and also recognize the challenges that we're all facing. What I see, Mr. Bial, is the note, and in the legislation, I did get your email, and again, I can't get on the internet, so we're having IT issues, but I want to raise this to the committee members that I think personal lapse fund, whether now or in the future, should also probably be held off until we have actual numbers. I think we should not move forward in numbers that can move because I don't really see if the goal is for complete transparency, or at least as an oversight committee, I have numbers here on the page, and that's the expectation, is that's where, you know, the numbers stay. If funds are moved, there's some type of documentation, or OMB adheres to Navajo Nation law and policies that if it's over like $50,000, that the oversight committee would have be notified. And Delegate Nelson Begay would always talk about the role of a council delegate. And in my opinion, the role, especially the budget and the fiduciary responsibility, is a major component and responsibility as a delegate. And so I would maybe then ask OMB to provide solutions. And I don't know if the solutions are the draft budget policy language that has been in draft form for a number of years. And so, Mr. Bial, if you could give me some suggestions. I don't know if I need to make a legislative concern or a condition of appropriation, but I do believe we should have updated, modernized budget policies and procedures so that there's complete transparency and that we could track down every Navajo Nation dollar. Thank you. That's my question, Vice Chair, on the amendment.
Well, thank you, Honorable Crotty. Committee members, any other questions for either OMB or the sponsor on the legislation? Okay, we'll turn the floor over to OMB. Mr. Bial.
Mr. Vice Chair, committee members, again responding to Delegate Crotty on the her concern about solutions, how to do the job better, and we're all handicapped, as she explained, by the pandemic, and all the meetings, discussions, etc., are by teleconference, which makes it difficult. But I would agree with her. There's some fixing and some improvements that could be done, which of course was the intent of the proposed budget policies manual. And a number of years ago, she's correct that we retained a consultant to assist in the development of that. And they did their recommendations up to a point. And from that point on, we continued to work on it. And I think you've heard me say this during the budget hearings, that the chapter budget policies is done. And the decision was made to incorporate it into this year's BIM. So that portion was done, completed, and it's now in the fiscal year 21 budget instructions manual. Okay, now there's a legislative concern number 21 that's appended to this legislation that reads, OMB will provide an update to the BNF committee on the progress of the budget policies manual by the end of the first quarter of FY21. OMB will present this orally and in writing. So we'll comply with that. And it would be our hope that when we do provide the report, it'll say, or we'll be reporting that essentially it's done. It's ready to be dropped and enacted. Mr. Chair, Vice Chair, that's my reply at this time. Thank you.
Thank you, Dominic Bial. Committee members, any other questions regarding Amendment 1? On Amendment 1. If there's no questions, we'll call for the question on Amendment 1.
Mr. Vice Chair, may I say something?
We were ready to vote, Mr. Dominic Bial.
So, no?
Calling for the question on the amendment.
Vice Chair Smith, this is Delegate Crotty. If I may request to hear Mr. Bial's suggestion. Thank you, Vice Chair.
This is Delegate Brown. I second that. I would like to hear his remarks. Thank you.
Committee members, we'll let OMB, Mr. Bial, go ahead. You have the floor.
Thank you, Mr. Vice Chair, committee members. The amendment document that you're looking at now, that's been prepared by Ms. Lowell, you'll notice that it refers to the personal lapse fund allocations attached as Exhibit H. And I just want to inform you that the exercise that the BNF committee went through on Tuesday night, and then it even went into Wednesday morning, about allocating all of the $9.6 million in personnel savings. The list was prepared and it was sent to all of you late yesterday afternoon. That, in effect, would become the Exhibit H. I just wanted to be sure you're clear about that. So it would become an exhibit that would be appended to this legislation moving forward. That's the first thing. Now, the second thing is I have a recommendation on number 6 on Ms. Lowell's document where it refers to the development of the capital improvement plan. It's not long. The way it reads, the Division Community Development is directed to develop a Navajo Nation capital improvement plan in accordance with the plan submitted by each chapter. This plan is to be developed by the end of the first quarter of 21. I just have a suggestion. See, the way it's worded, it says by each chapter, but the capital plan and the resulting capital budget is really all Navajo Nation governmental capital projects projects and plans, not just a chapter. In other words, the 3 branches as well, and the various divisions. So my suggestion in that respect, with the plans submitted by each chapter, and you could add by the branches and divisions. Mr. Chair, Vice Chair, those are my comments.
Thank you, Mr. Beal. Committee members, we'll call for the question.
Vice Chair Smith, this is Delegate Crotty.
Good morning, Delegate Stewart on the line.
Good morning. Stewart. Morning, everyone. Yate Bene. It is 10 o'clock, and we do have a NABIC Agent Committee, the 24th Navajo Nation Council this morning. I do have about 6 delegates on the line. Wait a couple more minutes for quorum. Again, good morning, everyone. Good morning to everyone, our usual listeners on Facebook, Vimeo, and YouTube. Thank you for being with us again this morning. To everybody, the staff, and also to some of the agents that are online too for some of the legislations that we're going to hear today. So again, good morning, everyone. Kat, for being on the line.
Yate Bene, Delegate Freeland calling in. Morning, Shananta.
Good morning again. Yate Bennett to everyone. Thank you for being online and being on the teleconference this morning. This is Speaker Seth Damon, Chairman of the Navigating Committee. Thank you very much for being a part of this committee meeting today. Let's go ahead and wait a little bit longer, colleagues and staff members and agents. We do have a full agenda here before us, but I know that there is still a Budget and Finance Committee meeting going on currently. With that, we'll probably have to wait a little bit longer to get a quorum, but we can, if we don't have a quorum by 10 a.m. this morning, I'm just going to go ahead and start off. Due to the fact that we don't need a quorum in order for us to go ahead and get some of these reports completed. So we'll just wait a little bit longer to see if we have a quorum. Thank you again, everyone, for being on the line today. Again, this is a Navigating Committee meeting, special meeting via telecommunications. Good morning, and let's sit back a little bit longer and wait and see if we do have more individuals calling in. Kat.
Good morning, Chair, honorable members of Navigating. This is Delegate Herman Daniels Jr. on the line.
Good morning, Mr. Daniels. We'll go ahead and let's go ahead and do a roll call. We'll go ahead and restart it. We're recording. Go ahead and get this roll call going. If not, if we don't make a roll call, we'll go ahead and continue on down onto the reports. Again, good morning, everyone. This is the Navigating Committee of the 24th Navajo Nation Council. This is a special meeting via telecommunications. I'm here in Window Rock, Arizona on the Navajo Nation. I have my colleagues throughout the Navajo Nation calling in too as well. Again, thank you everyone for calling in. Today's date is Thursday, September 17th, 2020. The time now is 10:08 a.m. Presided by myself, Seth Damon, the Speaker of the Navajo Nation Council, as the chair today. We do have a proposed agenda here before us. Once called meeting order, next we'll do a roll call. that, Bobby, might do a roll call.
Honorable Arnold Begay. Honorable Kealan Begay Jr. Honorable Paul Begay. Honorable Nathaniel Brown. Honorable Eugenia Charles Newton. Honorable Amber Canespa Crotty. Honorable Seth Damon. Honorable Seth Damon answered roll call. Honorable Herman M. Daniels.
Good morning. I'm here.
Honorable Herman M. Daniels answered roll call. Honorable Mark Freeland.
Present. Good morning.
Honorable Mark Freeland answered roll call. Honorable Pernell Halona. Honorable Jamie Henyo. Honorable Vince James. Honorable Rick Nez.
Delegate Rick Nez is present.
Honorable Rick Nez answered roll call. Honorable Carl Slater. Honorable Raymond Smith Jr. Honorable Wilson Stewart Jr.
Present.
Honorable Wilson Stewart Jr. answered roll call. Honorable Charlene So.
Present.
Honorable Charlene So answered roll call. Honorable Daniel So. Honorable Eugene So. Honorable Otto So. Honorable Otto So is present. Honorable Thomas Walker Jr.
Thomas Walker is present. Thank you.
Honorable Thomas Walker Jr. answered roll call. Honorable Edison Wanika. Honorable Edmund Yazzie.
Here.
Honorable Edmund Yazzie answered roll call. Honorable Jimmy Yellowhair. Speaker, you have 9 members present, including yourself.
Hello? Hello?
Hello.
Members of the Navigate Committee, can you hear me?
Yes, Delegate Begay calling in from Western Navajo.
Delegate Begay, and then speaker's having a technical difficulty with the equipment here. So just bear with us for a few minutes.
Thank you.
Good morning, everyone. Can you hear me again? There we go. Sorry, colleagues. Colleagues, we did roll call. I have 9 members present this morning. We don't have a quorum yet, but we can continue down on our agenda. We do have a couple of reports that we can start off with this morning. But before we go on down, I did hear, I think I heard Honorable Paul Begay. Paul Begay, do you mind doing the invocation for us this morning?
Sure. Yes, I can do that.
Thank you.
Jadi in God, yang shunloni, shadi bendi koi. Navigate ben hitochigo ekutego peshmas an natin tinga hanani chegi quiet na hat abinige ya chenada huilna ko kwaya jo pato aka ye dado yo ne be nikinaje tlido le be han sikle ado ibn nacho ekodo nikidana e be bakadi lo sigi robin na huit ado le ado e konde da ishe ya ne hadat si to banana shadi adi do le sigi da so ben khabar hon lo do le ya te ko agist o ti et ego e yakota akhin da dilna ibn nacho ego na hatagi kitato to so ibn nacho ya hatishi bin daton shida so ya hashtador nito be nasiya nani katole ko che stati in lini con da quiche jeduni tido na initle ado che ti code ishbans an the kodo nada is gido kodo ya nadi nishtodes ado da khabar khonlo kedne the distingue the hasn't boy kotegon khasa and that has to nationally the bada has to the konen ni gehollo konde ne na ni tido ko en ha holliga dole ne tsaje kon ido le ado ya aze lini e kon be ya ten dot lesi so ne tidot is ebe kasobilsen ado ya te ko in another idol kon hiran go disting bekini nani da adon khalchnende bekran de kriste da nigi benina kot ego to alaske de don nechende hanan ado to da yan hitet ne ko konde ya te yan hitne hoido ide an naje nachni Bahatadi Nashni Hatngi Kadeshi Hitigi Nitranja Kundiklis Yateko Ian Kitnahoto Ashado and Jungo Nanishia Nati Ido Hitnil Teko Adon Hachin Dutchin and Jungo Ultraboya Hanada Hido Kah Jungo at Egg Ego Hitan Klingo Hitnal Teko at Ego Nada Hosh Atolic Artsogoi Cotedolik Zel Ingo Dot Saloud and Handal Shidalso Kabashahun Zel in Zeis Endan Lengi I see Koia Nika and Dalo I see Jikon Hidden Epetra Bitchinda has taken Yego ye Nika and Dalo Yegon Haba Holia Dashmode Hado that so yeah Pasopilsen Halchen away of the Hahol Agos Sagi not Zaj Alsobat Pasopilsen the Batch of Badi Neko Adoian Saya Siego Banai Crash Tradi in Lini Corner Yegon Hedge Nahoti Con Tobetinit Nekaya Sonal say Dashmo then some lini ben hanajin bador les corner Nekaya for cargo on the Ateko Nada Dol Claton Jungo non-certain lini be jungo nada edole adonsi ni the neblash line clinic also today be need so yeah hotego be ne kadil even not in Nandan, they togi, Kodal, so yeah, Trios, Benanish either the Zail, so they go be Nason, Tigo Hatego, Nikitahas, and also Trios, Nikinal Closing, Heli, the Pep, because she cleaned that, so he they'll get the edge and the whole hour that, so you don't need it, as shown the event. Ben he get it leader letter, but ego yet here. The national make Catholic co. Seriously, God, they got the outcome. Kitchen, Nixon Longido, the Conat, Hanas, and Hatnas, and Doha Hall, our other Sonja. Celeste as Kergi, President, other Vice President Liza, other Biagi, and Dad Michigi, other Speaker Damon, I don't know. Cornered not eating or this one's unhidden. Yet, ever not nas ben deal Mr. and hit the nerve by the car deal. Only horse to do your talk. I don't lay so later. She beat Koha at the house so go con. Not Ayana Zini yet. Kakish Krishni, the Nini, the Nel, need Mr. His car deal. And they can go so much. I do not argue at Ekon Hansaki story. But your battle, your Neben Hansaki story. Even I can't quick yet Eko Eakon, Nikitan by Bana Iliado, the Christian, he Sahilin given nature. Yet Eko Eben Nasna, Nami Kato, the Sashinka, Consabay Kodo job. The natural your Nebinachi could so there's an Iliad or this 100 deal. We got a consequence of this and all this. Yeah, your age, Jesus Christ, which is the Nashi of the Son. Amen.
Thank you very much, Honorable Paul Begay, for that wonderful invocation this morning. With that, let's go ahead and continue on. It seems like I don't have a quorum yet, colleagues, from the looks of the board, so we'll go ahead and move on down on the agenda. We'll go ahead and pass, recognize guest officials, review the adopted agenda, review the adopted journals, and we'll go on down to receiving reports. We do have 2 reports on the agenda at this time. Both reports is one of them is a State of New Mexico update presentation related to COVID-19 response and plans in working with the Navajo Nation by Cabinet Secretary Ms. Lynn Trujillo, New Mexico Indian Health Affairs, and Ikayo Allen, Tribal Liaison, New Mexico Department of Health. That I know that this request is coming from Freeland. Let me go ahead and turn it over to Miss Secretary Trujillo. Are you on the line?
I am. Good morning, Honorable Speaker Seth Damon.
Good morning, Yate.
Yate.
I'll go ahead and turn the floor over to you.
Thank you, Yate, Speaker Damon, Honorable Council Delegate. Thank you so much for the opportunity for the State of New Mexico Indian Affairs Department and Department of Health to present a report to you on COVID-19 response in the Navajo Nation. I'm joined today also by our Indian Affairs Policy Analyst, Dr. Geneva Vicente, who will be assisting me. We also have a team from the Department of Health, in addition to Tribal Liaison Iko Allen. Honorable Speaker Damon, a PowerPoint presentation was sent out to the council delegates, and we hope that you received that. And so I just wanted to thank you for the opportunity. Thank you, Honorable Council Delegate Freeland, for requesting us to
provide a report today to you, Council Delegate. As many of you know, we are working in partnership with other departments in the state of New Mexico to ensure that we provide the resources necessary to the Navajo Nation. I'm grateful that, to note that we have seen a flattening of the curve in cases at the Navajo Nation, and I think that has to do in large part to the leadership of the council delegates, you speaker, the Navajo Nation administration, and the Navajo people. And so we will present the information in partnership with DOH and then stand for questions. Speaker Damon. And at this time, I'd like to turn it over to Iko Allen, who is with the Department of Health.
Honorable Speaker and Chair Damon and Honorable Delegates, Iko Allen, the Tribal Liaison for New Mexico Department of Health, and again, Delegate Freeland for the reach out and approval for us to provide this report on the Navajo Nation tribal COVID-19 response, collaboration, and partnerships. Now, because we're in cyberspace, we don't have a PowerPoint that's visible to you. So with each of the team who are part of this presentation, we'll read the title of the slide so you have an understanding.
No.
Okay, good.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Thank you, Iko. Good morning, Chairman Damon and honorable members of the council. It's my pleasure to be here this morning to share with you some of the epidemiologic data related to COVID-19 on Navajo Nation in New Mexico. I am going to start with slide 2, and I'm going to read the title to make sure you have that this is the same slide. As you can see, it's the number of American Indian Alaska Native COVID-19 cases, and as a percentage of all COVID-19 cases by date. If you are not looking at that slide, I'm going to talk a little bit about the epidemiological curve of the COVID-19 epidemic on Navajo, among American Indians in New Mexico. So typically we describe how the epidemic is proceeding by looking at the case counts over time. And if you have the slide in front of you, we have dates along the horizontal axis at the bottom and the number of cases on the left vertical axis. What this shows is the number of cases reported to the New Mexico Department of Health. We were first notified of an American Indian COVID-19 case in early March, and continued to have increasing counts in mid to late March due to an outbreak in a tribal community that was related to a funeral, with another outbreak at the end of March, beginning of April. We saw increased or peak in our case counts among AIAN individuals in early May. And this graph is only going through the end of July, and we saw a decrease in case counts through July, at the end of July, and we have continued to see decreased case counts through the middle of September. What I would like to share is that the EPI curve for Navajo Nation, for persons affiliated with Navajo Nation who live on tribal land but also off tribal land in New Mexico, is showing a similar pattern with a peak among Navajo individuals in early May and a decrease over time to current time. In total, we have had, as of September 14th, a total of 5,932 cases, Navajo cases, reported to us, which is about 69% of all American Indian cases in New Mexico. And the rate of COVID-19 infection on Navajo Nation in New Mexico is 4,089 cases per 100,000 population. We are seeing a large disparity in the rate of COVID-19 among American Indian populations versus persons of other racial ethnic groups in New Mexico, where the rate among American Indians is 4.9 times higher than among other racial ethnic groups combined. This slide is also showing that if you're looking at the same slide I am, it's showing a red line, which represents the proportion of all New Mexico COVID-19 cases that are American Indian over time, and we can see early on that the great majority, or the epidemic, peaked among the American Indian population early, and the majority of cases were American Indian, representing about 60% of all cases in late April, early May, and then decreasing till the end of July to about 37% of all cases. Currently, 35.5% of all of our cases cumulatively over time are American Indian cases. I'm going to go on to the next slide now, and then I think we'll have some time for questions after. The next two slides are going to show that American Indian and Alaska Native persons have worse outcomes from the SARS-CoV-2 infection compared to persons in other racial ethnic groups. At the end of July, the age-adjusted death rate for American Indian persons was 216 per 100,000, compared to 11.8 per 100,000 among Hispanic persons and 9.4 per 100,000 among whites. So these rates among American Indian, the death rates were then 18.3 times higher compared to Hispanics and 23 times higher compared to whites in New Mexico. These disparities in mortality rates have persisted till the present. The current mortality, age-adjusted mortality rate among American Indians, Alaska Natives in New Mexico is 253.6 per 100,000. Again, the rates are higher, 12.3 times higher than in the Hispanic population and 18.9 times higher compared to the white population. Next slide, which is the COVID-19 age-adjusted hospitalization rate by race ethnicity, shows that American Indian persons are also hospitalized at a higher rate compared to persons in other racial ethnic groups. At the end of July, the age-adjusted hospitalization rate for American Indians, Alaska Natives was 763 per 100,000, compared to 53 per 100,000 in Hispanics and 21 per 100,000 in whites. Again, these rates were higher, 14 times higher than compared to the Hispanic population and 36 times higher compared to the white population. Currently, if we look at cumulative hospitalization numbers since the beginning of the pandemic, looking at all hospitalized patients, 53% of all hospitalizations were among American Indian persons, and the current rate among American Indians for hospitalization is 865 per 100,000. Again, much higher than among whites, 25 times higher, and almost 10 times higher than among the Hispanic population.
So, Tierney, can you talk a bit about the kinds of partnerships that exist with Navajo Nation? This is ICO, but if we could, in light of data, talk about the relationships and communication efforts and collaboration.
Yes, thank you, Aiko. So as I mentioned, early in the pandemic, when we first began to get reports of cases on Navajo Nation, we were in almost daily contact with the Incident Command and the Navajo Epicenter. We worked very closely with them throughout the pandemic, including having weekly conference calls with them and sharing the New Mexico Navajo cases with them, including information on not only the case counts, but the sharing hospitalization data and death data with them to keep them apprised of how the epidemic was in New Mexico on Navajo Nation. So we worked very closely with them and have had regular meetings as well with Dr. Jim. We consult with Navajo Nation as needed about special questions and topics. And I want to say that as the epidemic progressed on Navajo Nation, we were not so much talking about the details of each specific case, but we would update them, as I said, on our numbers. And as we became more involved in the process of investigating cases and assisting our other partners in Navajo area IHS with that process of doing a case investigation, making sure we were giving recommendations and following cases around isolation until they were non-infectious, and talking with them and collecting information about all their contacts. We were assisting Navajo area IHS with those efforts, especially in the Gallup service unit during the peak of the pandemic when the number of cases reported daily was very high. And we have continued to work and do reach out with all of the service units in New Mexico on a weekly basis throughout the pandemic. So we have had very strong collaboration and partnerships and sharing of information with Navajo Nation since the beginning. And I so appreciate all the partners that we've worked with and all the efforts, because we are definitely, as you mentioned early on, Secretary Trujillo, seeing the results of all the work of the Navajo people on reducing the epidemic in their communities.
Thank you, Tierney. I know that we have a time frame in which we're working together for this report, and so if we may defer questions until the end of the presentation. Also, to point out, if I'm correct, Dr. Murphy, that the information we're providing is certainly Department of Health information. Navajo Nation Epidemiology Center has its data, and IHS its data, in order to have a full picture of data-related description of the pandemic. Is that correct?
Yes, that is correct, Aiko. Our data are representing, as I said, individuals affiliated with Navajo Nation that live both on and off tribal lands, and so our data and counts will differ from what Navajo Nation Epicenter is presenting, and maybe even what Navajo Area IHS has. And you know, they would have the official counts for Navajo Nation, and we are presenting data on New Mexico cases that are affiliated with Navajo Nation on and off tribal land.
Thanks, Tierney. So may we move now? Oh, is there, let's see, Honorable Speaker and Chairman Damon, was someone trying to ask a question, or maybe please proceed?
Thank you. Well, let me, colleagues and presenters here, Secretary Trujillo, you and your agents, when you do give a report to the Navigating Committee, as you know, before presenting before here, there's a 20-minute time period. I can extend that by another 10 minutes if there is no objections from the floor from my colleagues. As right now, we're not in session anyway, so once, twice, 3 times. Go ahead, Secretary Trujillo, you have an additional 10 minutes.
Thank you, Speaker Seth Damon. Aiko, I think we should run through the presentation a little bit quicker so that if the Honorable Council delegates have questions, we're able to entertain those. Speaker Seth Damon, I also want to offer we can provide a written report and follow up with any of the council delegates as well. Thank you.
Yeah, great. Go ahead.
So we're now going to work with Dr. Miranda Durham, Northwest Public Health Region Director, which has a primary focus of Navajo Nation community testing and surveillance process and partnerships, which is slide 6. And so we'll honor that. We have just 10 minutes, so 5 minutes between you, Miranda, and Sandy Cole.
Okay, thank you. Good morning, Honorable Speaker and Chairman Damon and Honorable Council delegates. I'm going to take just a couple of minutes to discuss the process around community testing on the Navajo Nation. We've served the Navajo Nation primarily in partnership with Navajo Area IHS and as a request of 638 sites and the Office of the President. Test events are different at each site depending on the resources and needs of the community, but we really work throughout this for a consistent process in planning and following up on testing events. For testing on the Navajo Nation, requests for testing came to us largely from IHS or 638 medical centers, as I mentioned. And they worked in collaboration with the communities they served and Navajo Nation leadership to determine what the testing needs were. We would get involved in planning discussions with IHS and chapter personnel, discussing details of logistics, results management, and education at the test site. In some cases, pulling in other partners, such as on slide number 7, that's in testing in To'Hajiilee, where the First Nations wellness team provided wellness bags at that test event and a number of test events at other sites. And then Press Medical Services in the checkerboard area also helped out with testing. So the first picture on slide 6, the community testing and surveillance process, is just kind of, it could be anywhere. It happens to be at First Nations here in Albuquerque. So that's kind of, as most people know at this point, what a drive-through testing event looks like. And then the second slide, like I said, is a picture from To'Hajiilee and just our flyer for the Nageezi, the testing we did at the Nageezi chapter house. I think the most important part really of any testing event is the results management after, so that was always an important part of discussion and really took ongoing coordination. And again, mostly with IHS on notification of people who tested negative, those who tested positive, and what the process was going to be for case investigation and contact tracing, as Dr. Murphy spoke about. The Navajo Nation Incident Command Case Management Team, Dr. Laura Hammett and Dr. Jim, they developed a form which helped streamline notification of testing events on the Navajo Nation, getting that information back to them so they could be aware of where sort of more large-scale testing was happening. And I'll just mention that in order to stay coordinated in our efforts, we continue to participate in a Navajo Nation tri-state call every other Friday. I also, as everyone else has stressed, just the importance of partnerships through this. You know, we've had National Guard, Johns Hopkins, Press Medical Services in the checkerboard area, First Nations, tribal EMS programs, chapter house personnel, and of course, IHS, and sort of different combinations of people showing up at and participating in testing events. I think over time, the testing landscape has changed and evolved. I would say initially, at the request of partners, we would manage most aspects of testing. And over time, we've sort of moved to providing more technical support around large-scale testing events. And many sites are running independent of any Department of Health or Public Health Division involvement. At this point, we, in the Public Health Division, continue to run test sites available to anyone at no cost, with no criteria needed in Farmington, Gallup, Grants, and Albuquerque. So I will leave it there. Thank you so much.
And thank you, Dr. Durham. So, Honorable Speaker and Chair Damon, do we have just 5 minutes left so we know whether to stop our presentation and take questions, and also to hear from Secretary Trujillo?
You have about 4 minutes left.
Okay. I think what I'm going to do is, Secretary Trujillo, if you would provide your perspectives and updates that you might have.
Thank you, Aiko. I also want to thank the partners Dr. Miranda Durham and Dr. Tierney, and I know Sandy Cole is on the line too, for their partnership. I think Honorable Speaker Damon and Council delegates, I hope this is an indication of the type of collaboration and partnership from the state. The Indian Affairs Department is involved in many of these aspects as well. I think it's also important to note that as we're moving through this pandemic, we continue to reassess and make changes just as the nation itself is doing. And what I want to stress is the continued partnership and guidance from you, Speaker Damon, as well as council delegates, about how we can better meet the needs of the Navajo Nation citizens. The state continues to adapt its testing strategies, as well as how we would like to partner with the Navajo Nation on contact tracing, and of course, the efforts around humanitarian support and relief that were really critical early on during the pandemic, as we enter into a period of fall and winter, and then I think preparing for any potential surges that might come. And we need the partnership and leadership of you, Speaker, as well as council delegates, to help the Indian Affairs Department and the Department of Health to make those changes. We were able to, as a state, work to mobilize to get a lot of resources, food and water, out to the nation, but we really remain open to hearing from you and learning about how we can better adapt some of the initial outreach and plans that were put in place. So with that, Speaker Seth Damon and honorable council delegates, we really appreciate the time and the opportunity to provide a brief update to you.
Thank you very much, Secretary. For that, colleagues, let me go back to beginning of the agenda. I do believe I have a quorum now, so let me go ahead and call this meeting to order. Time now is 10:51 a.m. This is a special Navajo Committee meeting via telecommunications. I'm here in Window Rock, Arizona, on the Navajo Nation. I do have other individuals who are from the Navajo Nation Navajo Committee who are throughout the Navajo Nation. Thank you, colleagues. Today's date is set Thursday, September 17th, 2020. Again, the time now is 10:51 a.m. We did have call the meeting to order. Let me go on down to a roll call. Ms. Bobby, you mind doing a roll call?
Honorable Elmer Begay. Honorable Key Allen Begay Jr. Honorable Paul Begay.
Delegate Paul Begay is present.
Honorable Paul Begay answered roll call. Honorable Nathaniel Brown.
Delegate Brown is present from Danahootso Navajo Nation. Yes.
Honorable Nathaniel Brown answered roll call. Honorable Eugenia Charles Newton. Honorable Amber Canas Bakrati. Honorable Seth Damon.
Here. Here.
Honorable Seth Damon answered roll call. Honorable Herman M. Daniels.
Good morning. I'm here.
Honorable Herman M. Daniels answered roll call. Honorable Mark Freeland.
Good morning here.
Honorable Mark Freeland is present. Honorable Pernell Halona.
Good morning. Halona is present. Thank you.
Honorable Pernell Halona answered roll call. Honorable Jamie Henyo. Honorable Vince James. Honorable Rick Nez.
Delegate Rick Nez is here.
Honorable Rick Nez answered roll call. Honorable Carl Slater.
Delegate Slater present.
Honorable Carl Slater answered roll call. Honorable Raymond Smith Jr. Honorable Wilson Stewart Jr.
Present.
Honorable Wilson Stewart Jr. answered roll call. Honorable Charlene So. Honorable Daniel So.
Daniel So is present.
Honorable Daniel So answered roll call. Honorable Eugene So. Honorable Otto So. Honorable Otto So is present. Honorable Thomas Walker Jr.
Thomas Walker is present.
Honorable Thomas Walker Jr. answered roll call. Honorable Edison Winika.
Here.
Honorable Edison Winika answered roll call. Honorable Edmund Yazzie.
Here.
Yazzie answered roll call. Honorable Jimmy Yellowhair. Speaker with 14 members, including yourself.
Eugene So present. Delegate James present. Eugene So present.
Honorable Eugene So is present.
Delegate Kay Allen is present.
Honorable Kay Allen Begay Jr. is present. Honorable Vince James is present. And Eugenia Charles Newton is excused. Speaker with 17 members present, including yourself.
Hey, with that, we do have a quorum. 17 members present. Thank you, colleagues. Let's move on down on the agenda. Recognizing guests and visiting officials. Any recognizing guests or visiting officials?
Chair, this is Delegate Daniels.
Honorable Daniels, go ahead.
Yes, thank you, Chair. Adonana, 24th Council of Navigate Committee members. Adonana, this morning, so does the Howard C. So could Delegate Paul Begay, my brother. I see could by here needs and by here, Lenkodo. The rather Navajo Nation, she could he Kate East San, he the Net East San. Adonana Kodo, I just want to recognize my officials, Adonana, my staff here. I'm here at Ojeto Chapter Administration, Kododa, Shama Kododa, CSC, Ojeto Chapter Coordinator, Kododa, Shamata, Shirley Bedoni, Ada Odo, recognize the Shlik Adonana Kododa, Peggy Abrigo, AMS, Adonana, Carol Tellis, Nave Plupsi, Ajadam, Ajanat Anin, Lekodo, Edo, recognize the Shlik Kodo, Adonana Kodo, the other three chapters of Shokodo. That in nation show that they shot toward we can not on Odo debate or to recognize the Shlik Kodo. Thank you, Chair. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you for that recognition out there at Ojeto Chapter, all the individuals there. Good morning, everyone. With that, we'll go back to the floor. Any other recognizing guests and visiting officials?
Speaker.
Honorable Freeland, go ahead.
Thank you, Speaker. Shantana Fenige. Good morning, colleagues. Wanted to, of course, recognize Secretary Lynn Trujillo, New Mexico Indian Affairs Department, Eco Allen, New Mexico Department of Health team. We just had a report on the COVID-19 response from the state of New Mexico, so I just want to recognize them and thank them as well for that very detailed report. But good morning, Shatan, colleagues. I hope everyone is well. Blessings to you and your families and everyone listening as well. All of our Navajo people out there, Shatan. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you, Honorable Freeland.
Delegate Brown.
Honorable Brown, go ahead.
Here, Speaker, Ado 24th Navajo Nation, Beshma Sa'an. Ado, thank you to all our staff for making our meetings possible and helping all of us. Thank you for everything that you all do. I just wanted to recognize Kayenta Township Manager, Mr. Gabriel Yazzie, and the commissioners, Kayenta Township Commission, and my 3 chapter officials, Chilchimbito Chapter, Danahoto, and Kayenta Chapter, and also the Kayenta Court Administrator Director, Ms. Lavon Yazzie. I just want to commend them for all their work in actually making the Kayenta Judicial Court. It's actually 100% shovel construction ready right now. They have been working, even putting a lot of time during the pandemic in making this possible. We have reached out to council, and we'll continue to do our work from the chapter and township level on addressing the needs in our area. So I just want to recognize them for all their hard work, and we'll be keeping you all up to date, especially the Law and Order Committee.
Thank you, Honorable Brown. That, any other comments, questions, colleagues? I mean, not questions, recognize guests and visiting officials, sorry. There are none. Let's go on down to review and adopt the agenda. So Tara, if you can read it into the record.
Mr. Speaker, members of the committee, Navigator takes committee of the 24th Navajo Nation Council special meeting via telecommunication, Window Rock, Navajo Nation, Thursday, September 17, 2020. Proposed agenda, presiding chair, Honorable Seth Damon, Speaker, Navajo Nation Council. 1, call meeting to order, roll call invocation. 2, recognize guests and visiting officials. 3, review and adopt the agenda. 4, review and adopt the journals. None. 5, receiving reports. A, State of New Mexico's update presentation related to COVID-19 responses and plans in working with the Navajo Nation by Lynn A. Trujillo, Cabinet Secretary, New Mexico Indian Affairs Department, and Aiko Allen, Tribal Liaison, New Mexico Department of Health. B, report on towers and cell phone services by Yvonne Curley, owner Peter Funded. 6, old business A, legislation 0197-20. 7, new business A, legislation 0210-20, B, legislation 0221-20, 8, close the meeting, announcements, adjournment. Mr. Speaker.
Hey, with that, is there a motion?
Motion, Speaker. This is Edmund. Can I say something?
Delegate Brown will second.
Winika.
Delegate Brown, Honorable Brown is second. That. Any comments, questions, additions, deletions? Honorable Eugene
Speaker. Delegate Rick Nez, too.
May I say something, please, Speaker?
Yes.
Did you call my name?
Eugene, so go ahead.
I got a legislation to add on. 223. Relating to Navajo Committee, Navajo Nation Council, establishing policies that Navajo Nation government shall not endorse candidates or political parties in federal, state, and local election. Number C after the B, 221.
Hey, motion. Amendment 1.
Second. Delegate Nez.
Motion by Honorable Eugene So to add on legislation 223-10, or actually that's 20, sorry. That's 20, and that is, again, as Honorable Eugene So stated, action related to Navajo Committee and Navajo Nation Council establishing policy that the Navajo Nation government shall not endorse candidates or political parties in federal, state, and local elections. Colleagues, is there a second?
Delegate Rick Nez.
Nez, go ahead. Second.
Speaker.
On Amendment 1. Chairman Yazzie?
Yeah, thank you, Speaker. Members of the council and also our guests who did the report, much needed report. I just asked the delegates, I guess we can't endorse Donald Trump, but anyhow, I just would like to ask the council if we could add on 3 more legislations. I know, council, we're just going to go right to vote on these items. 028-20, that is the funding for this site for the new IHS hospital. in the Gallup area, Rehoboth area. And then also, it was requested by Mr. Platero, and I appreciate the good work with all the staff, 021-20 and then 022-0. The reason why, sir, is that they're important items, and I know we're just going to go right to vote on them. So, Speaker, that would be my request, sir.
Chairman, can you reiterate? I got 0208-20.
Yes, sir. Speaker, again. The second one would be 0201-20 and then
01 dash.
Okay, let me go to my old police days and announce the numbers. Okay, Speaker, members of the council, 0201-20. Speaker, members of the council, sir.
So those two.
And then the other one that was requested by Mr. Platero, 0222-20. Speaker and members of the council, sir.
Zero 0222-20. So colleagues, with this, there's a motion to modify there's a recommendation, Honorable Eugene So, to add on legislation 0208-20, 0201-20, 0222-20, and 0208-20 is an action related to health, education, human services, resource and development, budget and finance, and NABGE committees authorizing the Navajo Division of Community Development to proceed with a negotiation on the PL 93-638 Title I construction project agreement for the site selection evaluation report, phase 2 for the Navajo, or for the new Gal Indian Medical Center at the Rehoboth site. That's 0208-20. Now, 0201-20 is an action related to health, education, human services, budget and finance, and the NABGE committees and the Navajo Nation Council, adding $175 million to the CARES Fund Hardship Assistance Expenditure Plan enacted by CJY-67-20. And then the last one is 0222-20, which is a proposed Navajo Nation Council resolution and an act related to health, education, human services, resource and development, law and order, and NABGE committee and the Navajo Nation Council, amending Title 17, Chapter 3, Controlled Substances at 17 NNC subsection 390 and 394. Honorable Eugene So, there's a request to modify to add those on.
Speaker, I have one more to add on, please.
Honorable Eugene So. Okay, add those on. With that, Chairman Nez, you good?
I'm good, sir. Thank you.
That. Honorable Stewart, you're up.
Okay, thank you, Speaker, Chair, and then colleagues of NABGE Committee. I am requesting to add on legislation 0220-20. The one for the Washington office, please, colleagues.
With that, request to modify Honorable Eugene So to add on 0220-20. It's an action related to the budget and finance, resource and development, and NABGE committees and the Navajo Nation Council, approving the purchase of the property offered for sale to the Navajo Nation by owner of 11 D Street, Southeast Washington, D.C., approving the expenditure of the fund principal of the Land Acquisition Trust Fund to the purchase of the property, approving the expenditure of the fund principal of the Land Acquisition Trust Fund to pay for the repair and renovation of the 11 D Street property. Honorable Eugene So, request to modify your amendment.
Rodrigo.
0220-20. Chairman Edge, are you good with that?
Yes, sir. There you go. Thank you.
That, I don't have anybody else on the board. Any further
Speaker Callan.
discussion on Amendment 1? Honorable Keon Begay, go ahead.
Speaker, just for the good morning, or later on, Kudo Shaban Soki, Shaaron Doshi Sadina, Shindas in the 0209-20. I'm waiting for that to be heard at Budget and Finance as we're speaking. Once that's done, I'd like to add that onto the NABI's agenda once the documents and the report is complete. So, it is open on Hinge Council list ahead of time, though. A request of the speaker. Appreciate the time. Thank you.
Thank you. When legislation 0209-20 is available, and if it is available today, Che, staff will notify you, and we can move towards that amendment of the agenda and adding that legislation on. So with that, back to Amendment 1. Any other discussion?
Speaker Damon, this is Delegate Charles Newton.
I'm Chair Charles Newton. Good morning. Go ahead.
Yes. Good morning, Speaker. I apologize that I missed roll call. I was actually on the Budget and Finance Committee meeting where one of my legislations is also ready to be heard there. So I'd like to ask that we add on legislation 02, I believe it's 201-20 to the agenda as well. I'd like to ask the motioning party to consider that legislation. It is ready to be heard. And the legislation was attached and sent out by Mr. Tom Platero this morning. Thank you. I'm going back on mute.
Madam Chair, Charles Newton, that legislation's already been added on as a request to modify under Amendment 1.
I do apologize. I missed that, Speaker, but thank you. Thank you.
Okay. That, colleagues, any further discussion on Amendment 1? Once, went twice, went 3 times. That, second reading on Amendment 1.
Mr. Speaker, members of the Obligated Committee, Amendment number 1, motion to add legislation 0223-20 to the agenda as new item C under new business. Add legislation 0208-20, 0201-20, and 0222-20 as new item D, E, and F respectively. Add legislation 0220-20 as new item G under new business. Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Go to board. Vote. Bobby, let's do a roll call vote.
Honorable Elmer Begay. Honorable Key Allen Begay Jr.
Delegate Key Allen votes green. Thank you.
Honorable Key Allen Begay Jr. votes green. Honorable Paul Begay.
Delegate Paul Begay votes green.
Honorable Paul Begay votes green. Honorable Nathaniel Brown.
Delegate Brown votes green. Yeah.
Honorable Nathaniel Brown votes green. Honorable Eugenia Charles Newton.
Charles Newton votes green.
Honorable Eugenia Charles Newton votes green. Honorable Amber Canas-Procrati. Honorable Herman M. Daniels.
Green.
Honorable Herman M. Daniels votes green. Honorable Mark Freeland.
Green.
Honorable Mark Freeland votes green. Honorable Pernell Halona.
Halona votes green.
Honorable Pernell Halona votes green. Honorable Jamie Daniel.
Honorable Vince James,
Delegate James votes green.
Honorable Vince James votes green. Honorable Rick Nez,
Delegate Rick Nez votes green.
Honorable Rick Nez votes green. Honorable Carl Slater,
Delegate Slater, green.
Honorable Carl Slater votes green. Honorable Raymond Smith Jr., Honorable Wilson Stewart Jr.,
Green.
Honorable Wilson Stewart Jr. votes green. Honorable Charlene So,
I vote green.
Honorable Charlene So votes green. Honorable Daniel So,
Daniel So votes green.
Honorable Daniel So votes green. Honorable Eugene So,
I vote green. Thank you.
Honorable Eugene So votes green. Honorable Otto So, Honorable Otto So votes green. Honorable Thomas Walker Jr.,
Thomas Walker votes green.
Honorable Thomas Walker Jr. votes green. Honorable Edison Wanika,
Green.
Honorable Edison Wanika votes green. Honorable Edmund Yazzie,
Green.
Honorable Edmund Yazzie votes green. Honorable Jimmy Yellowhill, Honorable Elmer Begay, Honorable Amber Canaspa-Crotty, Honorable Jamie Henyo, Honorable Raymond Smith Jr., Honorable Jimmy Yellowhair. Speaker with a vote of 18 yeas and 0 nays.
Okay, thank you. That 18 in favor, 0 opposed. Chair not voting. Amendment 1 passes. With that, going back to the main motion. Any further comments, questions? Chairman Nez.
Speaker, I'll wait my time, sir. Thank you.
Okay, with that, moving on down. Chairman Yazzie.
Nothing, Speaker, sir. Just go to the legislations and vote green.
Okay. If there's any other comments, questions on the main motion for the agenda, going once, twice, 3 times. That second reading.
Speaker Kellen.
On the second reading, on count, you have a discussion item on the agenda?
Speaker, is 022420 on the agenda?
Oh. No, it is not.
Okay.
Okay, with that, second reading.
Mr. Speaker, members of the Nabagi Ethics Committee, there is one amendment. Motion to add legislation 0223-20 to the agenda as new item C under new business. Add legislation 0208-20, 0201-20, and 0222-20 as new items D, E, and F respectively. Add legislation 0220-20 as new item G under new business. Mr. Speaker.
Thank you. Let's go ahead and get a roll call vote. Bobby, what was yours?
Honorable Elmer Begay, Honorable Key Allen Begay,
Delegate Key Allen votes green.
Honorable Key Allen Begay Jr. votes green. Honorable Paul Begay,
Delegate Paul Begay votes green.
Honorable Paul Begay votes green. Honorable Nathaniel Brown,
Delegate Brown votes green. Yeah.
Honorable Nathaniel Brown votes green. Honorable Eugenia Charles Newton,
Charles Newton votes green.
Honorable Eugenia Charles Newton votes green. Honorable Amber Canaspa-Crotty, Honorable Herman M. Daniels, Honorable Mark Freeland.
Green.
Honorable Mark Freeland votes green. Honorable Pernell Halona.
Halona votes green.
Honorable Pernell Halona votes green. Honorable Jamie Henyo. Honorable Vince James.
Delegate James votes green.
Honorable Vince James votes green. Honorable Rick Nez.
Delegate Rick Nez votes green.
Honorable Rick Nez votes green. Honorable Carl Slater.
Delegate Slater, green.
Honorable Carl Slater votes green. Honorable Raymond Smith Jr. Honorable Wilson Stewart Jr.
Green.
Honorable Wilson Stewart Jr. votes green. Honorable Charlene So.
I vote green.
Honorable Charlene So votes green. Honorable Daniel So.
Daniel So votes green.
Honorable Daniel So votes green. Honorable Eugene So.
I vote green. Thank you.
Honorable Eugene So votes green. Honorable Otto So. Green. Honorable Otto So votes green. Honorable Thomas Walker Jr.
Thomas Walker votes green.
Honorable Thomas Walker Jr. votes green. Honorable Edison Wanika.
Green.
Honorable Edison Wanika votes green. Honorable Edmund Yazdi.
Green.
Honorable Edmund Yazdi votes green. Honorable Jimmy Yellowhair. Honorable Almer Begay. Honorable Amber Canasba Crotty. Honorable Herman M. Daniels.
I vote green.
Honorable Herman M. Daniels votes green. Honorable Jamie Henyo. Honorable Raymond Smith Jr. Honorable Jimmy Yellowhair. Speaker, with a vote of 18 yeas and 0 nays.
Thank you. My colleagues, 18 in favor, 0 opposed, chair not voting. We do have an agenda before us. That moving on down, review and adopt the journals. There are none at this time. And then moving on down to item number 5, receiving report, State of New Mexico update presentation related to COVID-19. And this is from Madam Secretary Trujillo. Thank you very much for that presentation. So before I go back to you, Madam Secretary, let me go ahead and get a motion. Motion second by Madam Chair Charles Newton. Colleagues, any comments, questions for Madam Secretary, for her and her team? For once,
Speaker, Delegate Charles Newton.
Madam Chair, go ahead.
Thank you, Speaker. I appreciate the presentation that was provided. I do admit that I was handling 2 calls. I'm on budget and finance because I do have a legislation that will be coming up on budget and finance, and that's where the committee members are currently at. But I also got to listen in on the presentation provided to us by Indian Affairs. I appreciate the information and I appreciate the statistics that have been provided to this body in regards to the health and also, what is happening to the state. What I would like to know is whether we can for
hold on, Madam Chair. Colleagues, can you please mute your phones? Thank you very much. Go ahead, Madam Chair. Sorry about that.
Thank you, Shatilla, Speaker Damon. I just want to say that I'd like to have a similar report provided to us on the education of our children. I know that this has been a contentious issue, not only with the states, with New Mexico, Arizona, and Utah, but also with the BIA as well. I know that there is a letter that is going to be discussed about the the Navajo Nation stand on education for Navajo children. And I think that this is something that we really need to get some information on. Particularly, I'd like to know how the state is going to assist the Navajo Nation and the Navajo children with equipment that, to help them with their education, in particular computers, Wi-Fi hotspots, or even Wi-Fi extenders in some cases. I know that the state is pushing to get students back in the classroom. How are we protecting our children? We do have some state schools on the Navajo reservation, so I'd like to request a report on that from the state, and again, how they plan to assist us during this time with our Navajo children. Thank you, Speaker. I'm going back on mute.
Thank you. Any other comments, questions?
Speaker Edmund. Daniel So.
Freeland, and then I'll come over to Chairman Daniel So.
Thank you, Speaker. Thank you, Speaker. Good morning, Navigator community members. Good morning to everyone that's listening online as well. Thank you for the presentation, Madam Secretary, your IAD team, as well as New Mexico Department of Health. I think what my sister asked for previously, we should also include the school districts as well. I know PED has something to do with it, but the school districts are really dictating how the classroom setups will be, and I think they have the authority to have the in classroom settings or not as well. So maybe the PED as well as the school districts need to be included on that discussion. Relations to slides 2, slides 3, and slides 4. These slides, these 3 slides alone are very eye-opening. And, I'm thinking about going back to March and April and June significantly at the height of the pandemic or the height of the COVID-19 situation. McKinley County alone was the highest percentage per capita of cases, COVID-19 cases in the state of New Mexico. We even had more cases than Bernalillo County alone. Bernalillo County. I just looking at slide 2, but looking at slide 3, and then of course the hospitalization rate. That is so eye-opening. It's significant. And I guess my question to the state is, has there been any discussion as far as a study for multi-generational living conditions in other ethnicities as well? I know Indian Health Service, we talk to them a lot, the Navajo area, and a lot of their data or what they were attributed to, a lot of our huge cases of significance to COVID-19 were related to intergenerational living conditions on the nation. Is that the same setup or the same ways that other ethnicities in the state also, I think of Hispanic population, for instance. Is there multi-generational living within those ethnicities as well? Or does it just occur in Alaska Native, American Indian Alaska Native population? That's my first question is has there been any research or any data or any sort of study done on overall intergenerational living? Because like I said, a lot of our numbers attribute to that. The second question I have, of course, really, it really relates to the data itself, the numbers. And I mentioned McKinley County and how much of these numbers it's labeled as AIAN, but how much of a percentage of that is Navajo compared to other tribes? I'd like to know what that is, what that might be. we had high cases in McKinley and San Juan, and our chapters were out there doing their best to help our people. But I really wanted to know what the breakdown was tribally, if I could. So I have those two questions, Speaker. I think what my sister brought up, Honorable Charles Newton, is important as well, as far as looking at education and the PED. And I think we also need to include the school districts as well. Gallup-McKinley County School Districts has the largest population of Navajo kids in the state of New Mexico. So, and we also need to include Central Consolidated, Cuba, Bloomfield, Farmington, even Albuquerque Public Schools. There's about 4,000 Navajo kids that are at APS. So, Eddie Ashland, I wanted to mention that. Thank you, Chair and my colleagues.
Honorable Speaker and Chairman Damon Iko Allen, Tribal Liaison, may we address the council delegate?
Yes, hold on real quick. Let me go to one more a question from Chairman Daniel So, and then I'll go back to Secretary Trujillo or anybody from there, any of the agents that want to speak on it. Any of the questions have been asked, or some kind of comment here on a response. So let me go to Chairman Daniel So, and then I'll go back. Chairman?
Speaker, real quick. I'm sorry.
Thank you, Sile, little brother, Speaker Damon, honorable members of the 24th Navajo Nation Council Notikia Committee, legislative staff, legislative council, and to our guests who are presenting this report related to some of the research and the data that's being analyzed. I guess my first question is, you presented the fact that there's Navajo IHS has their own numbers, Navajo Department of Health, Health Command Center has their numbers, and now New Mexico Department of Health is presenting their numbers. And the question is, a person that's living, let's say, at Torreon chapter or Ojo Encino chapter or Counselor chapter, who are served by Presbyterian Medical Services, Checkerboard Area Health System, and that one person is being analyzed by 3 different studies. How do you then basically turn that into wraparound services? This one person that say is actually positive but shows negative on a test, then becomes a community source. And how do we conduct adequate contact tracing? Who would take the lead role in that particular person's, in that particular health system? That is my question. The other is, this goes to Secretary Lynn Trujillo. We have a great big dilemma about Medicare services in the New Mexico portion, where a Section 17 federally recognized entity. Basically, the state is dictating a certain recognition of what government to government relationships are. In this case, I really feel like the state is dictating who and what and where. This is very disturbing. Number one, the Navajo Nation has a treaty with the United States government way before the state of New Mexico was ever recognized as a state. And we are still existing on our homelands. And in that aspect, then we have the governor saying, this is how I'm going to recognize you. Understand that we have our own governmental system that is far different from some of the 500 and odd tribal nations. We are one of the very few sovereigns that have a three-branch government. And within that three-branch government, our laws basically dictate how we are to be recognized. In that aspect, the Navajo Nation Council is the governing body of the Navajo Nation. And in that respect, then certain powers are delegated to the legislative branch and the executive branch. And in this respect, regarding the Medicare services, of which New Mexico receives dollars, we are saying this particular entity is the entity that the council chooses to have use of those funds. And that, in effect, basically really is troubling, and it hampers those federal funds basically for the low income, the indigenous. And the state is saying you can only spend it the way I say you spend it. And for me, that's very troubling. And that goes on to what the council has already also established regarding impact aid. We asked the state public education department not to appeal the U.S. Department of Education's decision. And yet, there is that appeal. The 3 school districts that are part of this action to try to do a restraining order, that's being sidetracked. And these are our children, Navajo children. And the Nabikia Kit Committee established the tribal position, Navajo Nation position, that requesting the state not to appeal it. That goes on to the other aspect of our education of our young folks. In a major court decision within the state's court system, the Yazzie Martinez. And again, we had heard the state was going to appeal it, and they did. And this particular committee that you're appearing before today also passed legislation requesting the state not to appeal it. So in that respect, there is a great schism developing between Navajo Nation relationship and with the state government. I'm concerned. And you, Secretary Trujillo, you are one of the lead aides department. How can you basically start mending, weaving a better relationship between the state government of New Mexico and the Navajo Nation government in the delivery of essential services as help, as well as education. And the other aspect is the part of the many items where regarding the specific projects that go to the chapter, which the state legislature has appropriate monies for those chapters. Again, some of those are reverting. And there has been letters of appeal to say, give us more time because of the pandemic, because of the Navajo Nation's closure. Give us more time. And that, again, is falling on deaf ears. And that's a very big concern to me. Thank you, Speaker. I turn the teleconference line back to you. A lot of it is statements that are troubling, and I hope that the balance of the Navajo Nation Council, the Navikia Committee, understands where I'm coming from and the basis and the reason for me to be having this voice. Speaker Damon, Chairman Damon, thank you.
Thank you, Chairman. So, Pat, I'm going to go back to Secretary Trujillo in response to my colleagues' advocacy committee's comments and concerns. The floor is yours.
Yes. Thank you, Speaker Damon. Thank you, Honorable Council Delegates. With respect to Council Delegate Eugenia Charles Newton, thank you for that request. We will work with our partners. I know in particular there have been requests from the Navajo Nation Council Delegate, so we're in the process of working with PED to respond to your request as well. So we will follow up with our partners to work on getting a report to the council delegates related to the report on education and what the state is doing and plans to do in terms of meeting the educational needs for Navajo children in light of COVID. We'll also work with the school districts as well to make sure that they are included. With respect to Council Delegate Freeland's first question related to any studies or research or data about the impacts of multi-generational living conditions and its association with COVID-19 cases. I am not aware of any research or data. However, that does not mean that there aren't some. I will defer to DOH. I think that Council Delegate Freeland brings up a good point, and we've seen that in some of our congregate setting tight living quarter situations. For the state, I can say that, we've seen that when it comes to aging and long-term services division, where in some of the nursing homes where there were an outbreak of cases. And I think this has to do with, the inability to be able to isolate and have that separation. But I would ask Dr. Murphy, if you're still on the line, if you have any more further information related to Council Delegates Freeland regarding multi-generational living conditions and COVID-19. I also, sorry, Dr. Murphy, there was also a second question Council Delegate Freeland had asked in relation to the data that was presented to the Council Delegate. He was asking, with respect to McKinley County or the numbers that were presented, how much of the percentage is in relation to Navajo Nation citizens. I think the aggregate data that was presented was in relation to American Indian and Alaska Native.
Yes, thank you, Secretary Trujillo. Hello again, Honorable Speaker Damon. May I address the Council Delegate Freeland?
Go ahead.
Thank you. So in response to your first question about intergenerational living conditions on Navajo Nation and how that may have contributed to the high number of cases, I am not aware of any research on this, and I cannot really, the data that we collect does not include information on the number of persons living in a household where there was a confirmed case of COVID-19. We do know that the virus itself has an infectivity rate that's higher than influenza, so it is more infectious, and that living in close contact with other persons in a home would put people at risk, and persons are likely to get infected whether they have symptoms or not. So we haven't, in New Mexico, haven't done any work on looking at intergenerational living conditions on Navajo Nation or among American Indian populations or other racial ethnic groups. To address the second question, I realize and apologize that our slides didn't have this information visually. We can include it in a report. I did not present any county level data, but I did mention that the total number of confirmed cases of COVID-19 among Navajo persons affiliated with the tribe and living on and off tribal lands within New Mexico, within the state of New Mexico, is 5,932. And that represents 69% of all the American Indian cases in New Mexico. So the majority of confirmed COVID-19 cases in New Mexico are among Navajo-affiliated individuals. Does that help to address your question, Delegate Freeland?
Freeland.
Thank you, Speaker. Yes, it does. Thank you. It would also be great to get an aggregate breakdown, maybe by county as well. Thank you.
Speaker.
Secretary Trujillo.
Yes, Speaker Damon. I also wanted.
Oh, go ahead.
I also wanted to address Council Delegate. So, and I will need Dr. Murphy's assistance with this. Dr. Murphy, would you be able to provide a response to Council Delegate? So, it was in relation to wraparound services, and I think really the issue is with respect to contact tracing. And if we could briefly explain the process that is in place currently with respect to contact tracing, because that really folds into his question around who has jurisdiction and the wraparound services that are provided to an individual who might receive testing from Presbyterian.
Thank you, Secretary Trujillo. Honorable Speaker Damon, may I address Honorable Council Delegate So?
By all means, go ahead. The floor is yours.
Thank you, Speaker Damon. Honorable Council Delegate So, to answer your question about how investigations, including contact tracing and monitoring, is conducted in order to provide wraparound services both to confirmed persons who are confirmed with COVID-19 infection as well as any of their contacts. The Department of Health collaborates closely, as I mentioned earlier today, with Navajo area IHS in each of the service units in New Mexico, and we work with their public health nurses. When we are notified of a case that is affiliated with Navajo Nation, there are multiple jurisdictional issues to consider, but at the current time, individuals who were tested at an IHS facility and who live on the Navajo reservation, they are investigated and followed by the public health nurses in each individual service unit. So they also receive the lab results as well as the Department of Health, but they make the initial call to all of their cases and explain the criteria for isolation of the patient who is confirmed with COVID-19. They collect all the information from that individual about their close contacts, and then they monitor those close contacts by giving them instructions about self-quarantine for 2 weeks from their last contact with the case. If there is an individual that is Navajo that doesn't live on tribal land, the Department of Health does the investigation and provides the same information and wraparound services for that individual, including giving them instructions about self-isolation. We follow up and monitor that individual to make sure that they have recovered, to make sure that we can get them any services that they may need, and that may include contacting through the Emergency Operations Center, our tribal liaison for Navajo Nation. And we are also monitoring all the contacts and calling them or texting them daily to see if they need any testing or other services as well. So it is a collaboration between multiple entities, and we have worked with all of our partners in developing a protocol for how we can ensure that people are being followed by either Navajo Area IHS or Department of Health, so that everybody is receiving the correct guidance and support, and nobody is slipping through the cracks, hopefully.
Thank you, Dr. Murphy. And then lastly, Speaker Damon, Honorable Council Delegate. So, Council Delegate, so thank you for your honest expression of your concerns in relation to the current relationship between the state and the Navajo Nation. I look forward to working with Speaker Damon and you council delegates to do a better job and mending those relationships with respect to the concerns that you've raised, council delegate. So I wanted to make you aware of, and the rest of the honorable council delegates, that I did hear from Secretary Stewart that PED had put in a motion to drop the appeal related to impact aid. That motion has not been ruled upon or granted at this point, so I wanted to provide that update to you and look forward to working to strengthen the relationship between the state and our council delegates in the Navajo Nation. With that, Speaker Seth Damon, I appreciate the opportunity for us to respond to questions, and we'll follow up.
Speaker.
Thank you very much, Secretary Trujillo. With that, let me go back to the floor. Chairman Yazzie, the floor is yours.
Speaker, thank you, sir, and thank you to the presenters. Just a comment that I want to say to the presenters. A month ago, the council passed a legislation encouraging the school to really go into the virtual learning for our young kids for their safety, and we sent the legislations forward to our schools and even with BIE, and they are acknowledging it. I mean, they are looking at that legislation. However, when Gallup Superintendent McKinley County was pretty surprised that his comments were, I still remember, is that our numbers are down and we're going to go ahead and continue on with school. And so a couple weeks ago, I heard that McKinley County is going to go ahead and hold back just because of the safety of the kids. And so now there's numbers that are coming in as students are positive for the kids that are going to school in McKinley County. So anyhow, I just wanted to share that with the superintendent. I really was surprised to hear that from him, and and so just thought again to share that. But my question is to the doctors. Do you think that to the medical doctors here, do you think that the numbers are going to go back up among the adults, elders, and even our kids with this COVID? Speaker, sir.
Hello, this is Dr. Murphy. Honorable Speaker Dane. May I address the council delegate?
Yes, Madam Secretary Trujillo, is that good? Okay.
Yes, thank you.
Go ahead, Doctor.
Yes, thank you for your question. You know, it is difficult to predict what is going to happen in the midst of this epidemic in New Mexico, since there are so many things that we are learning day to day, and the situation is changing daily. I really cannot predict what is going to happen with the numbers, but you know, we are prepared or thinking that as people, as Navajo Nation, as New Mexico in general opens up further, as we see our case counts going down, there is always the potential, as people are more mobile and that we may see cases go up. And we are trying to prepare for those instances, especially as schools open and where there may be opportunities for close contact among the children and the staff at the schools. So we are continuing to, despite, you know, opening up in various locations more, we are still recommending safe COVID-19 practices, including wearing facial coverings, in keeping at a distance of 6 feet, frequent hand washing and avoiding touching your face with your hands, and avoiding unnecessary outings and travel as much as possible. We will continue to work with our partners in PED and BIE around school reopenings and how we can support efforts for identifying cases and making sure that contact tracing is done, and we can provide support as needed to any of our tribal partners.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Dr.
With that, let me go back to the floor. Honorable Freeland.
Thank you, Speaker. I got locked off. I'm sorry, Speaker and Shanta. My phone dropped the call. Thank you for the update and the response, Secretary Trujillo and the New Mexico Department of Health team. One area I forgot to mention previously was we're now in the home stretch of the census, and we really, if we could figure out a way to partner together these next couple of weeks, especially to get out the census count in Navajo. Right now, I think Northern Navajo, of all the agencies, is sitting number one as far as response is concerned, but Eastern Navajo is right behind them, number two. It keeps changing day to day, week to week. So we really want to emphasize the census count, and if there's a way we can work together, whether it's education or a way to help our people get counted, because I believe in 2010, if I read that only 28.9% of our people were counted, and we, it was really challenging, of course, with this pandemic. And if there's a way we can partner together to really look at the census and dealing with the home stretch, how can we work together, I guess is my question. Thank you, Speaker.
Thank you, Honorable Freeland. With that, let me go back to you, Secretary Trujillo, and maybe for closing remarks too as well, because I don't have anybody else on the board.
Thank you, Speaker Damon and Honorable Delegate Freeland. Yes, as you mentioned, there are 13 more days left for us to get a response from regarding census. I understand that the nation has filed a lawsuit, as well as there's other efforts in Washington, D.C. by our congressional delegation to extend that deadline. But we need to keep on encouraging all of our citizens to respond to the census, as funding is tied to that and is very critical. I do want to make the council delegates aware that the state of New Mexico Indian Affairs Department has been working with NAVA EP and Ms. Jamie Glochet. I believe a newsletter was sent out to the New Mexico chapters. It's a weekly update. There are people working in New Mexico chapters providing guidance and support. From the information that I have, they are based in Nageezi, Farmington, Thoreau, and Gallup, and funding from the state appropriation that came through Indian Affairs is being used to support those efforts. In addition, for each chapter, they will be distributing Wi-Fi hotspots, tablets, flyers, masks, coloring books, and posters to help push out census. And Council Delegate Freeland or any other council delegate, if you need contact information for the individuals who are on the ground working with the chapters to push census, please let me know and I'll be happy to connect you with them. We're also working to make sure that there is more media, radio, and newspaper ads that go out in relation to pushing census. I want to thank you, council delegates, for your leadership in working with your communities to make sure that all of us respond to census. And with that, Speaker Damon, I want to again thank you as well as the Honorable Council Delegate for providing Indian Affairs and Department of Health with the opportunity to provide a report as well as the follow-up that's requested. Thank you.
Thank you, Secretary Trujillo. With that, no one else on the board. We'll go ahead and call for the vote on accepting the report.
Honorable Elmer Begay. Honorable K. Allen Begay, Jr. Honorable Paul Begay.
Paul Begay votes green.
Honorable Paul Begay votes green. Honorable Nathaniel Brown. Honorable Eugenia Charles Newton. Honorable Amber Canaspa Crotty. Honorable Herman M. Daniels.
Green.
Honorable Herman M. Daniels votes green. Honorable Mark Freeland. Honorable Mark Freeland votes green. Honorable Pernell Halona.
Delegate Halona votes green.
Honorable Pernell Halona votes green. Honorable Jamie Henyo. Honorable Vince James.
Vince James votes green.
Honorable Vince James votes green. Honorable Rick Nez.
Delegate Rick Nez votes green.
Honorable Rick Nez votes green. Honorable Carl Slater. Honorable Raymond Smith Jr., Honorable Wilson Stewart Jr.,
Green.
Honorable Wilson Stewart Jr. votes green. Honorable Charlene So, green. Honorable Charlene So votes green. Honorable Daniel So,
Daniel So votes green.
Honorable Daniel So votes green. Honorable Eugene So,
Vote is, go ahead, thank you.
Honorable Eugene So votes green. Honorable Otto So, Honorable Otto So votes green. Honorable Thomas Walker Jr., Honorable Edison Winika, Honorable Edmund Yazzie,
Green.
Honorable Edmund Yazzie votes green. Honorable Jimmy Yellowhair, Honorable Alma Begay, Honorable T. Allen Begay Jr., Honorable Nathaniel Brown, Honorable Nathaniel Brown votes green via text. Honorable Eugenia Charles Newton, Honorable Amber Canespa Crotty, Honorable Jimmy Hino, Honorable Carlos Slater,
Is this to accept the State of New Mexico report?
yes.
Green. Delegate Slater.
Slater votes green. Honorable Raymond Smith Jr., Honorable Thomas Walker Jr., Honorable Edison Winika,
Green.
Honorable Edison Winika votes green. Honorable Jimmy Yellowhair. Speaker, with a vote of 15 yeas and 0 nays.
That 15 in favor, 0 opposed. Chair not voting. Motion carries. Thank you very much, Secretary Trujillo and your agents there. Have a good day.
You as well. Thank you, Speaker Damon.
All right. That, moving on down. Item number B, report on tower and cell phone services by Yvonne Curley, owner of Clear Abundance. Yvonne Curley, are you on the line?
There are a couple team members that are here with her, and we'll make sure that she's on. Confirm that she was on. She must be having technical difficulties.
Yvonne Curley?
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes.
Thank you. Yes, my name is Yvonne Curley. I am originally from Fort Defiance. I am the owner of Clear Abundance. My clan is Ashni Nishno Sinajini Bashichin Pratni Zahni Eta Shiche Tapahi Eta Chanel. First, I would like to personally thank Honorable Wilson Stewart for your generosity and assistance. And good afternoon, Honorable Seth Damon, Speaker, and Honorable Council delegates. And also, thank you to Honorable Paul Begay for that beautiful, powerful prayer this morning. And I appreciate the opportunity to present. A copy of the PowerPoint and summary was sent to all the council delegates by Tom Platero this morning. I also have online with me two colleagues, Craig Snyder and Michael Proper, and they will. I will turn the time over to them after in a few minutes. A year ago, August 20th, 2019, the Navajo Nation Department of Telecommunications and Utilities reached out to our company and requested an RFP for cellular voice and data services and equipment. We submitted our RFP in Window Rock. On September 9th, 2019, we met with the Navajo Cyber Team. Our commitment to work and assist the Navajo Nation was pre-COVID. In 2005,